The document be noted. I call the member for Warringah.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. Well, this is an important report. As a member of the Environment and Energy Committee, I commend this report on our inquiry into the problem of feral and domestic cats in Australia. And I thank my fellow committee members and the committee secretariat for their work on this important inquiry. The inquiry sought to examine the prevalence and impact of feral, stray and domestic cats and the effectiveness of various legislative, regulatory and collaborative responses across Australian jurisdictions. The committee received 218 submissions, held 6 public hearings in Canberra and conducted a very memorable site inspection under just a bit of rain at Mulligan's Flat Woodland Sanctuary in Canberra's North, where we were able to inspect the sanctuary's feral predatory-free fence and had the pleasure of seeing great diversity like the eastern quoll. And it really was exciting to see good policy and a really fantastic program. The committee has made the report makes 6 specific recommendations which I fully support. We know feral cats are a significant problem. It's astounding. I mean, feral cats are found on 99% of the Australian continent. So it's clear there is no magic solution and there needs a cohesive response. And these 6 specific recommendations seek to do that. In particularly, Recommendation 1, the prioritisation of the problem of feral cats as a matter of national environmental significance. We need to do better. We've seen a really dramatic loss of native species as a result of this of the problem of feral cats. We need to better educate ourselves and understand the problem. We need to promote responsible cat ownership. Pet cats are part of the problem. The statistics are astounding that 1 million animals per day in Australia are in fact killed by pet cats. I think is quite telling. In the recommendations, there is a call for a clear strategy to inform resourcing and response to the problem. It is a significant problem. It is of vast scale, and unfortunately there is no simple solution, no one size fits all, but we must be focused on it and make sure we're making gains across so many areas. Of course, discussions in relation to loss of biodiversity and extinction of native species brings on debate about what we're doing in terms of environmental protections at large. And of course, we've seen the EPBC Act amendment come through the Parliament. The important issue of feral cat abatement was another example, is an example of why the Environmental Protection and Biodiversity Conservation Act is so essential in protecting our native flora and fauna, and why I've got grave concerns around the government's move to divest the powers to the states in relation to the recent legislation that was put to the House of Representatives, and I believe it is a very dangerous move. The EPBC Act provides for the identification and listing of key threatening processes, and a key threatening process that threatens or may threaten the survival, abundance or evolutionary development of a native species or ecological community. So it's no surprise that the predation by feral cats is listed as a key threatening process. Feral cats, as I said, roam over 90% over our continent and are decimating populations for birds, amphibians and small mammals. Some witnesses suggest that over 1.5 billion animals are killed by cats each year. The statistics were really scary. Our biodiversity, already under threat by so many factors, including climate change, deforestation and pollution, is being squeezed unsustainably. So once listed as a key threatening process, threat abatement plans and strategies can be developed. Regrettably, existing plans and strategies are insufficient to halt the extinction crisis, driven in part by feral cats. So, of course, it does raise those concerns that in the current legislation pushing for the divestment of powers of environmental approvals and assessments to the states without the critical safeguards in place We've seen the final report from the Samuels review of the EPBC Act, and the government's response, I would suggest, is inadequate. We need a firm commitment that the government will implement the national standards envisaged by the Samuels review in full. There must be adequately resourced independent assurance and compliance regulator, and only then can we be assured that we can reverse the extinction and biodiversity crisis that we have in Australia. The attitude towards the EPBC Act and what it seeks to protect was on display, I would say, when we had really inadequate, and it was rushed through the House of Representatives late last year without proper debate. I call on colleagues in this place and in the Senate to really consider that impact to our environment and what legislation is in fact needed to make sure we do protect our biodiversity, our flora and fauna that is so unique around the world. So this report is a very important report when it comes to one of our worst predators to our native species. I thank all the witnesses and all those that participated, and the Secretariat and my fellow committee members, and I commend the recommendations.